children, welcome to today's class. Today we are moving to the part of history, chapter 8, vital villages and thriving towns. In the former chapters, we have seen about the agricultural production of the human being. Here they have used the iron tools to increase their production. Not only the iron tools, they have used the irrigation facility also. Last chapter we have seen the transplantation of seeds. They are taking the seeds first they make and they made a smaller ones, then they just transplant it to the field. So they are getting more production from that. Here they have used the tools as the iron tools and they have used the irrigation facility such as canals, lakes and other irrigation facilities. So by using these things, they got more production in their agriculture. During this time, people lived in the villages and in Tamil region, large landowners were known as Vellalar and ordinary ploughmen, that means those who are making the field for cultivation, they are known as Ulavas, and slaves, those who are doing the agriculture work and those works they are doing, they are known as Adime and Kadasya. In the northern part of the country, there were village headmen. A large landowner will be the village headman. He is known as Gram Bojega. His post is hereditary. That means after him, his son or daughter will become as the village headman, and he is collecting taxes from the peasants as a form of money or a agriculture production, and he acts as a judge and as a policeman if any problem arises in the villages. Like the large landowners, there is independent farmers also there in the villages. They are known as Grahapati. They are smaller landowners, and some other peoples are there. They are taking the land of others in lease and they are doing the agriculture production there in that field, but it is not owned by them. They are known as Dasa Karmakara, and some other craft persons also lived in the villages. Blacksmiths, potters, carpenters, weavers, they are also lived in the every village. The earliest Tamil compositions were known as Sangam literature because they came together in one place and they have written from there and published from there. It was in the city of Madurai. So these compositions were known as Sangam literature.
Vital villages, thriving towns. Prabhakar at the blacksmith shop. Prabhakar watched the iron tools like axes and sickles that were laid out for sale at the local shop. A bright fire was burning. It was hot and noisy at the smith's, but he was fascinated as he saw the two men who were heating and beating metal rods into shape. Iron tools and agriculture. The use of iron began in the subcontinent about 3,000 years ago. Some of the largest collections of iron tools and weapons were found in the megalithic burials. Around 2,500 years ago, there is evidence that iron tools like axes and plowshares were used increasingly. Axes were used for clearing forests and plowshares for increasing agricultural production. Other steps to increase production. Irrigation. The kings and kingdoms existed with the support of flourishing villages. New tools, system of transplantation, and irrigation increased production. Irrigation works that were built during this time included canals, wells, tanks, and artificial lakes. Who lived in the villages? There were at least 3 different kinds of people living in the villages of southern and the northern parts of the subcontinent. In the Tamil region, there were large landowners known as Vellalars, ordinary ploughmen called the Uzavar, and landless labourers, including slaves, known as Kadaisiyar and Adimai. In the northern part of the country, there was the village headman. He was called the Grambojaka and was often the largest landowner. Normally men from the same family held this post. As he was powerful, having slaves and hired workers to cultivate the land, he collected taxes from the village for the king. He also acted as a judge and sometimes a policeman. There were independent farmers called the Grahapatis, who were mostly smaller landowners. Those who did not own land were called the Dasa Karmakara. These men and women worked on the fields owned by others. There were also craftspersons like blacksmith, potter, carpenter, and weaver. The earliest Tamil compositions. Around 2300 years ago, Sangam literature was composed in Tamil. These were the earliest works in Tamil and were so called because they were compiled in assemblies known as Sangams of poets that were held in the city of Madurai.
You may have heard about the Jataka stories. These stories are written by the ordinary people at that time, and it is preserved by the Buddhist monks. And here is a story of poor man gradually become rich. It is taken from the Jatakas. The clever poor man. Once upon a time, there was a clever poor young man who lived in a city. His only resource was a dead rat. He started off by selling it for a coin to a hotel for their cat. Then one day, there was a storm. The king's garden was littered with branches and leaves, and the gardener was at a loss as to how to clear the mess. The young man offered to clean the garden if he could keep the wood and leaves. The gardener agreed at once. The young man rounded up all the children who were playing with an offer of seeds for every stick and leaf that they could collect. In no time, every scrap had been neatly peeled near the entrance. Just then, the king's potter was on the lookout for fuel with which to bake his pots. So he took the whole lot and paid the young man for it. Our young man now thought of another plan. He carried a jar full of water to the city gate and offered water to 500 grass cutters. They were pleased and said, "You have done us a good turn. Tell us, what can we do for you?" He replied, "I will let you know when I need your help." He then made friends with a trader. One day, the trader told him, "Tomorrow a horse dealer is coming to town with 500 horses." Hearing this, our young man went back to the grass cutters. He said, "Please give me a bundle of grass each and don't sell your grass till mine is sold." They agreed and gave him 500 bundles of grass. With the horse dealer could not buy grass anywhere else, he purchased the young man's grass for 1,000 coins. We are getting the evidence of people lived in the villages and in smaller cities. The sculptures, they have carved some of the scenes of the life of the people in the villages. They have done in these decorated in the railings, pillars and gateways. The most of the people, those who are visiting the places. So from there we are getting the evidence of the life of the people in the villages and the cities. Many of the cities become the capital cities that we have seen the last chapters, that in Mahajanavada, the emergence of new cities or the towns. And these towns are covered or must be fortification of walls. They have built great walls around the cities. We are getting the evidence of the houses or the villages and in the cities. That is, from the archaeologists, they have found out some of the evidence like ring wells they have used to in the drainage and toilets, and most of the houses were made of wood and brick, so it is not survived, and the palaces were not there. And we are getting some of the evidence by the travelers' account. Those who visited the place at that time, and they have written in their books. Mainly a Greek sailor, he visited some of the ports on that time. So he wrote about ports which he visited at that time. The story of Barigasa written by the Greek sailor. The gulf is very narrow at Barigasa and very hard to navigate for those coming from the sea. So the local fishermen, they are driving the boats or the ships to the port. The imports into Barigasa were wine, copper, tin, lead, and coral, topaz, cloth, gold, silver coins. Export things, that is include the plants from Himalayas, ivory, agate, carnelian, cotton, silk, and perfumes. And these traders, they are giving special gift to the king, like vessels of silver, singing boys, beautiful women, fine wines, and fine clothes. This Baurush is present day in the state of Gujarat. In this class, we have seen about the development of the agriculture on that time and life in the villages. The people, the large landowners there, and slaves were there, and smaller landowners there. And Jataka stories, we have seen the poor man, and the evidence of the villages and cities from by the archaeologists. They have got some of the evidence of the cities, the life of the people on that time. The rest of the chapter we will see in the next class.